Limousine driver James Sheaffer had mysteriously gone missing after finishing a late-night shift. And detectives believe his neighbor in Deltona, Florida, Angela Stolt, may have had something to do with it.
I wouldn't say she became a suspect, but she certainly became a person that we were interested in speaking to more about Mr. Sheaffer's disappearance.
Angela had attracted the attention of investigators when they learned she had control of James's finances. And their suspicions had been piqued when the 42-year-old single mom admitted their relationship was more than just business and more than just friends.
Benefits?
But just as detectives were wondering if Angela might have murdered James for love or money or both, she points them towards two other possible suspects. One of them, his boss, Peter Harrington.
He said that his boss made his mechanic put a blade to his throat.
Allegedly over an unpaid loan.
And his boss followed him up to the bank to get his money.
And Angela also cast suspicion upon James's longtime live-in girlfriend, Candy Medina, the mother of his 3 children.
They were fighting a lot, and he showed me a mark on his face where she hit him.
Angela tells detectives they weren't the happy couple they appeared to be, and that Candy was not as sweet as her name might imply.
I've seen her chase him down the street with a baseball bat. She busted the windshield in his limo one time with a rock. She punched him in the face, I saw that.
But as detectives try to find out what happened to James, everything keeps pointing them back to the direction of Angela.
I'd been stopping by Angela's house, and she became more and more withdrawn. She didn't want to answer my questions, and that really raised my suspicion.
And investigators say she lived in a house of horrors.
We saw some graffiti on the walls. We thought maybe kind of cult-like.
There were strange religious icons littered about the home.
There were sex toys in her room.
There were pentagrams on the windows.
It's not something you would have seen in Better Homes and Gardens, that's for certain.
And then, about a month after James disappeared, an obviously disturbed Angela cracks. Her sister calling 911, saying an hysterical Angela is threatening to kill herself and screaming that she'd already killed somebody else.
The sister mentioned something about Angela saying that she had done something to Jimmy.
And Angela tells detectives what she did to him in a confession recorded on audio in a patrol car as she leads detectives John Brady and A.J. Pagliari to the scene of the crime.
But we're driving right now to the scene where she says the murder actually took place.
Angela had already told them she was that mystery driver who'd picked James up after work the night he disappeared.
She told them that her father was going to give her some money that she could loan to him.
She says she then drove James to a cemetery where she told them they had to wait until her father woke up.
That's the spot you parked. You told me parked.
Yes.
And when they got out there, Miss Stolt told Mr. Sheaffer that it was a joke.
To pay James back, she says, for lies he told her, particularly about financial matters.
And I said, how does it feel to be lied to, Jimmy? And he just started yelling about, son of I'm gonna...
You can say it.
I'm gonna kill you.
Then what happened?
He came at me, and I stabbed him.
With an ice pick she says she grabbed from a toolbox in the back seat of the car.
Where'd you stab him at?
That eye.
The right eye? You're pointing to the right eye?
And when that doesn't deter James, Angela says she keeps stabbing.
And then she doesn't know if he's dead, so she pulls the ice pick out and she jams it in his other eye and swirls it around.
Before finishing him off with some tree climbing equipment she also had in her car.
And I wrapped it around his throat.
Until she'd strangled James to death.
How do you know he was dead? How could you tell?
Stop moving.
Did you do anything else after that? I mean, and I don't mean about...
His head so it wouldn't bleed all over my car.
And what'd you wrap his head with?
Some saran wrap I had in that box.
Then she drives the body back to her home.
He still had the ice pick in his eye with the saran wrap around his face.
Mm-hmm.
And Angela says she dismembers James' body in the garage with a hacksaw before taking the body parts to the kitchen, where she boils and bakes them.
She felt, I guess, that cooking them would somehow shrink them down.
Angela packs the remains along with James' bloody clothes in garbage bags, then dumps them in several remote locations.
Her words were if it was in different areas, that it would hamper the investigation somehow if anything was ever found.
And unbelievably, Angela's two unwitting teenage children help her, believing the remains are those of a deer their mother hit with her car, and not a human body.
That didn't even cross my mind at the time. That was even a possibility.
Investigators find most of James's body parts at the cemetery where Angela killed him. Dozens of his bones and body parts strewn around the property after being torn out of the garbage bags by animals.
Some fingers, some leg bones, foot bones. I do recall there being a pot, I think, with a foot bone, with a foot in there and an ankle bone in the pot that was thrown in the woods there at the cemetery.
At her murder trial, Angela would plead not guilty, claiming she acted in self-defense. But the prosecution insists it was clearly premeditated, presenting a mountain of damning evidence against Angela, including proof that she drugged James before killing him.
Ms. Stolt didn't show any signs of any kind of self-defense wounds.
We also were able to show in her financial records that she had purchased latex gloves, that she had purchased saran wrap, that she had purchased other items in anticipation of this crime several hours before it actually occurring.
And Angela Stolt would be sentenced to life in prison after being found guilty of first-degree murder. And prosecutors say they have Angela herself to thank for that conviction, telling us that she would likely have gotten away with that murder had it not been for her increasing paranoia that she was going to be caught. That crisis of conscience ultimately led her to confess. I'm Chris Hansen. If you like this story, make sure you tune in every day to Crime Watch Daily. You can find where the show airs in your city at crimewatchdaily.com. Watch it live or record it on your DVR and watch it at night. And to all those criminals out there, remember, we are watching.